Hey there, welcome back. Crescent Moon. I'm here to help you unwind and relax tonight. I know many of you listen to these stories as you drift off to sleep. Before you get comfortable, feel free to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. I always enjoy hearing from you. Now, settle in. Story 1. The first name appeared on a Monday. No one noticed it at first. Just another scribble on the cracked wall of interview room 3. A place where suspects lied, where witnesses forgot, where truth usually came too late. Detective Seymour Iqbal almost missed it. Almost. He was halfway through his coffee when his eyes caught something strange. A name. Carved, not written, into the paint. Rough. Deep. Like someone had used something sharp and taken their time. Reader Ansari. Seymour frowned. "Who did this?" he muttered. The constable outside shrugged. "Room was empty all weekend, sir." Seymour stepped closer, ran his fingers over the letters. "Fresh. Too fresh. Get maintenance," he said. The constable nodded. And that should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. 3 hours later, Seymour's phone rang. "Dispatch. Urgent. Sir, we have a missing persons report." Seymour leaned back in his chair. Already tired. "Name?" A pause. Then, "Reader Ansari." Silence. Seymour didn't respond. Couldn't. His eyes slowly drifted back toward the wall. The carved name stared back at him, waiting. "That's not possible," he whispered. "Sir," the dispatcher asked. Seymour stood up abruptly. "I'm on my way." The case was routine. At first, a 22-year-old university student. Last seen leaving campus. Phone switched off. No witnesses. Nothing unusual. Except, Seymour had already seen her name. Hours before she was reported missing. By evening, the wall had been repainted. Clean. Blank. Like the name had never existed. Seymour stood in front of it, uneasy. "Sir." He turned. It was Adil. Young. Sharp. Too curious for his own good. "You okay?" Adil asked. Seymour hesitated, then shook his head. "Just thinking." Adil glanced at the wall. "You've been staring at that for 10 minutes. Seymour forced a small smile. "Feels like I'm forgetting something." That night, Seymour didn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the name. Reader Ansari. Cut into the wall. Waiting. At 2:03 a.m., his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Seymour ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Irritated, he answered. "What?" Silence. Then, a voice. Low. Calm. "You saw the name." Seymour froze. His grip tightened on the phone. "Who is this?" A pause. Then, "Did you like it?" Seymour stood up slowly, his heart beating harder now. "What do you want?" A soft chuckle came through the line. "I want you to pay attention." The call ended. Seymour stared at his phone. His instincts kicked in immediately. Trace the number. Track the signal. But something stopped him. Because deep down, he already knew. This wasn't random. The next morning, Seymour returned to the station early. Too early. The building was quiet. Still, he walked straight to interview room 3. Paused at the door. Then pushed it open. And froze. The wall wasn't blank anymore. A new name had been carved into it. Deeper. Messier. Like whoever did it was in a hurry this time. Hamza Rehman. Seymour's breath caught. No. His voice barely worked. Because this time, there was something else. Under the name. A time. 4:15 p.m. Seymour stumbled back. His mind racing violently now. Because if the pattern was real, if this wasn't coincidence, then Hamza Rehman wasn't missing yet. But he was going to be. Seymour grabbed his phone instantly. "Get me every Hamza Rehman in the city, now." His voice echoed through the empty station. Because somewhere out there, someone had already decided. And written it down. Seymour didn't sit down. Didn't breathe properly. Didn't think. He moved. Fast. Like instinct had taken control. Now, he backed into the phone. "I want every Hamza Rehman in this city. Addresses. Workplaces. Everything." Adil rushed in moments later, still adjusting his jacket. What happened? Seima pointed toward the wall. Adil stepped inside, looked, and froze. That wasn't there yesterday. Seima shook his head. No, it wasn't. Adil stepped closer, eyes narrowing. Who wrote it? Seima didn't answer. Because that was the problem. There were cameras, guards, locked doors. No one had entered that room overnight. And yet, the name was there, cut deep into the wall, like it had always been waiting. Sir, Adil said slowly, there's a time written under it. Seima nodded. I saw. Adil swallowed. 4:15 p.m. They both went quiet, because now it wasn't just a name. It was a countdown. Seima turned sharply. We don't have much time. Within minutes, the station came alive. Phones ringing, computers buzzing, officers moving fast. A list appeared. Hamza Rehman, 11 matches in the city. Seima stared at the screen. Too many. Filter it, he said quickly. Age between 20 and 35. The list dropped to 5. Students, office workers, 1 delivery driver, 1 freelancer. Seima leaned forward. Which one fits? Adil shook his head. We don't know anything yet. Seima clenched his jaw. We don't have time to guess. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Seima froze for half a second, then answered. You're late. The same voice. Low. Calm. Seima's grip tightened. Who is this? A soft chuckle. You saw the time, didn't you? Seima didn't respond. Didn't need to. I wonder, the voice continued, if you'll make it this time. Seima's heart pounded harder. This time. Silence. Then. Ticking, Seima. The call ended. Seima lowered the phone slowly, his mind racing. This time. What did that mean? Sir. Adil said. Seima looked up. Track all 5, he said quickly. Send units to each location. I want eyes on them before 4:15. Adil nodded. Already moving. By 1:30 p.m., they had updates. 2 are out of the city, an officer reported. Confirmed? Seima asked. Yes, sir. Cross them out. Third one, hospitalized. Been there for 3 days. Seima nodded. Not him. Fourth, office worker. Currently at work. CCTV confirms. Seima leaned back slightly. Keep watching him. And the 5th. The officer hesitated. Delivery driver. Name, Hamza Rehman. Last known location. Signal went off an hour ago. Seima's chest tightened. Where? Near Goldberg Industrial Area. Seima grabbed his keys instantly. That's our guy. The drive felt endless. Every red light felt personal. Every second too slow. Seima checked the time. 2:42 p.m. Still time. But not enough. They reached the industrial area by 3:05 p.m. Abandoned warehouses. Empty streets. The kind of place where things disappeared. And stayed gone. Split up. Seima ordered. Search everything. Officers scattered. Adil stayed close. This feels wrong, he muttered. Seima nodded. Because it did. Too easy. Too obvious. Seima's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He answered instantly. You're close, the voice said. Seima's jaw tightened. Where is he? A pause. Then. Listen. Seima frowned. Listen to what? The line stayed open. Silent. Then. A sound. Faint. Metal hitting something. A dull, rhythmic banging. Seima froze. His eyes scanning the area. There. Warehouse number 6. He ran. Adil right behind him. Seima kicked the door open. Dust filled the air. Dak. Cold. The banging got louder. From inside. Over here. Adil shouted. They rushed deeper into the warehouse. Past broken crates. Rusting metal. Until they found it. A steel container. Locked from the outside. The banging was coming from inside. Seima's heart slammed. Get it open. Officers rushed forward. Breaking the lock. Pulling the doors apart. Inside. A man. Tied. Gagged. Barely conscious. Hamza Rehman. Alive. Seima exhaled sharply. We got him, Adil said, relief flooding his voice. Seema checked the time. 3:58 p.m. 17 minutes early. We did it, Adil said. But Seema didn't respond. Because something felt off. Too easy. Too clean. Seema's phone buzzed again. He stared at it, then answered slowly. A sigh came through the line. Almost disappointed. Well done, the voice said. Seema's grip tightened. It's over. A pause. Then, is it? Seema frowned. What do you mean? The voice chuckled softly. You're looking at the wrong name. Seema's blood ran cold. What? Check the wall again. The call ended. Seema turned slowly toward Adil. Adil. His voice was tight. We need to go back. Sir, we found him, Adil said, confused. Seema shook his head. No. His eyes darkened. We were meant to. The time ticked forward. 4:15 p.m. Somewhere in the city. Something else was happening. Something worse. And back at the station. Inside interview room 3. The wall wasn't empty anymore. A third name had appeared. Adil Khan. And beneath it, 4:15 p.m. For a moment, Seema didn't hear anything. Not the officers. Not the noise. Not even his own breathing. Because one sentence kept echoing in his head. Check the wall again. Seema grabbed Adil's arm. Hard. We're leaving. Now. Adil frowned. Sir, what? No questions. Seema snapped. Something in his tone made Adil go quiet. Because this wasn't urgency anymore. This was fear. The ride back to the station was faster. Reckless. Sirens cutting through traffic. Seema didn't stop checking the time. 4:09 p.m. 6 minutes. His grip tightened on the steering wheel. Please be wrong. But deep down, he knew he wasn't. They rushed into the station. Officers turned as they entered. Confused. Sir, what's going on? Seema didn't answer. He was already moving. Straight toward interview room 3. Each step heavier than the last. Because part of him already knew what he would see. He reached the door. Stopped. His hand hovered over the handle. For the first time. He hesitated. Then he pushed it open. The room was empty. Silent. But the wall. The wall wasn't blank anymore. Adil stepped in behind him. And froze. No. Seema didn't speak. Couldn't. Because carved into the wall, deep, violent, was a name they both knew. Adil Khan. Under it. 4:15 p.m. Adil stepped back slowly. This isn't funny. Seema turned toward him. I didn't do this. I know, Adil said quickly. But his voice wasn't steady. Because now, they both understood. The pattern had changed. This wasn't random anymore. It was personal. Seema checked the time. 4:12 p.m. 3 minutes. He grabbed Adil's shoulders. Listen to me carefully. Adil nodded. Barely. You're not leaving my sight. Adil swallowed. Sir, what if? There is no what if, Seema cut him off. His voice sharp. Controlled. We changed the outcome. Seema pulled out his phone. Dialed. Lock down the building, he ordered. No one in. No one out. He hung up. Looked at Adil again. You're safe here. But even as he said it, it didn't feel true. The clock ticked louder than it should. Each second stretching painfully. 4:13 p.m. Adil paced slightly. This doesn't make sense, he muttered. Seema's eyes stayed on the door. He knew would save Hamza. Adil stopped. What? Seema nodded slowly. That was the point. To bring us back here. Adil's face drained of color. You mean? Seema finished the thought. We were never chasing him. A pause. He was moving us. Silence fell again. Heavy. Oppressive. 4:14 p.m. 1 minute. Seema's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered immediately. You think staying in the room will save him? Seema's jaw clenched. Where are you? A soft laugh. Closer than you think. Seema's eyes scanned the room instantly. Corners. Ceiling. Mirror. The mirror. Seema stepped toward it slowly. The one-way glass. Observation room on the other side. Empty. Or at least, it looked empty. Time's almost up, the voice whispered. Seima's pulse spiked. Show yourself. A pause. Then, turn around. Seima's heart stopped for half a second. Slowly, he turned. The door, standing slightly open. But he had closed it. He knew he had. Adil noticed too. Sir. His voice barely worked. The door creaked, opening wider. Slow, deliberate. And then, a man stepped inside. Quiet. Calm. Like he had all the time in the world. Seima's eyes locked onto him instantly. You. The man smiled faintly. Me. Seima moved forward immediately. Don't. Adil shouted. But Seima didn't stop. He grabbed the man, slamming him against the wall. Who are you? The man didn't resist. Didn't panic. Just looked at him, almost amused. Does it matter? Seima tightened his grip. You've been writing the names. A pause. Then, no, the man said calmly. Seima froze. What? The man's smile widened slightly. I don't write them. Seima's chest tightened. Then who does? The man leaned closer and whispered. They do. Seima's grip faltered. Who? The man nodded toward the wall. Slowly, Seima turned his head. Against his better judgment. The name. Adil Khan. It looked different. Not fresh. Not carved moments ago. Older. Like it had been there. For a long time. Seima stepped back. His mind racing violently. No. The clock ticked. 4:15 p.m. Everything stopped. For a single second, the entire world seemed to hold its breath. Then, Adil gasped. Seima turned sharply. Adil. Adil staggered slightly, his hand gripping his chest. What's happening? He whispered. Seima rushed toward him. Stay with me. Adil looked up, confused, scared. I didn't do anything. Then his knees gave out. Seima caught him before he hit the ground. Adil. No response. Seima checked his pulse. Weak. Fading. No, 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 no. Seima looked up. The man was still there. Standing. Watching. You did this. Seima shouted. The man shook his head slowly. I told you. A pause. I don't choose the names. Seima's vision blurred with anger. Then what are you? The man smiled. And for the first time, there was something truly disturbing in it. I just make sure. He glanced at the wall. They happen. Seima looked back at Adil. Unmoving. Silent. And in that moment, Seima realized the truth. This wasn't about stopping a killer. It was about stopping something much worse. Adil's body felt heavier than it should have. Seima couldn't explain it. It wasn't just weight. It was the silence. The kind that doesn't belong to someone who was alive seconds ago. Adil? No response. Seima pressed his fingers harder against his neck. Searching. Hoping. Nothing. Behind him. Footsteps. Officers rushing in. Voices overlapping. Confused. Panicked. Call an ambulance. Move back. What happened? Seima didn't answer any of them, because his eyes were locked on the man standing across the room. Still calm. Still watching. Like this was all expected. You knew, Seima said slowly. The man tilted his head slightly. I told you. Seima stood up, carefully placing Adil's body on the ground. You knew his name would be there. A pause. The man's smile faded just slightly. I don't know, he said quietly. I remember. Seima's chest tightened. Remember what? The man glanced at the wall again. The names. Seima's mind struggled to keep up. This doesn't make sense. The man gave a small shrug. It doesn't have to. Two officers grabbed the man from behind. Sir, we've got him. Seima didn't look away. Lock him up, he said coldly. But don't let him out of your sight. The man didn't resist as they took him away. But just before he left the room, he looked back, directly at Seima, and said one thing. You on the wall too? Seima froze. The door shut. Silence followed. No, Seima whispered. He turned slowly, toward the wall, his eyes scanning every inch of it, every scratch, every mark. But there was nothing else. No new name. Not yet. Hours later, The station felt different. Quieter. Heavier. Adil's death had spread through the building like a shockwave. No one understood it. No wounds. No struggle. Just gone. Seima stood alone in the records room. Old files stacked around him. Dust in the air. He flipped through reports rapidly. Missing persons. Unsolved cases. Unexplained deaths. Looking for something. Anything. That connected. And then, he found it. A file from 8 years ago. The cover was worn. Edges yellowed. Case title. Unexplained fatality. Station incident. Seima frowned. Station incident. He opened it. Inside. Photos. Reports. Witness statements. And then, a picture. Seima's breath caught. It was interview room 3. The same room. The same wall. But it wasn't empty. Names. Dozens of them. Carved deep into the surface. Seima's hands trembled slightly. He flipped to the next page. A list. Each name documented. Each one crossed out. With a date beside it. Seima scanned them quickly. His heart racing. Because the dates matched. Every single name. Had died. On the exact day written next to it. This isn't possible. But the evidence was there. Recorded. Filed. Forgotten. He turned the page again. A witness statement. The handwriting shaky. Uneven. Seima read it aloud under his breath. They appeared overnight. No one wrote them. We checked the cameras. Nothing. His chest tightened. Another line. He said the names don't belong to us. He said they belong to the wall. Seima stopped reading. Because the words felt familiar. Too familiar. He flipped to the last page. A photograph. The wall again. But this time, one name was circled. Highlighted. Seima leaned closer. And froze. Imran Iqbal. His father. Seima's breath stopped completely. No. The date next to it. 8 years ago. The day his father died. Seima staggered back. The file slipping slightly in his hands. Because suddenly, everything changed. This wasn't random. This wasn't new. It had always been happening. Right here. In this station. His phone buzzed. Seima flinched. Unknown number. He answered slowly. You found it. The same voice. Seima's jaw tightened. You knew about this. A pause. I told you, the voice said. I remember. Seima's grip tightened. My father's name was on that wall. Silence. Then, yes. Seima's anger flared instantly. And you did nothing. A soft sigh. You think I had a choice. Seima didn't respond. Because deep down, he wasn't sure anymore. They tried to stop it before, the voice continued. They failed. Seima's chest tightened. Who? A pause. Everyone. Seima closed his eyes briefly. Trying to think. Trying to understand. What is it? He asked finally. A long silence followed. Then, it's not a who. Seima opened his eyes. Then what? The answer came softly. Almost like a whisper from somewhere far away. It's a place. Seima's blood ran cold. What? The wall doesn't show the future, the voice said. It remembers it. Seima's mind reeled. That doesn't make sense. It will, the voice replied. When you see your name. The call ended. Seima stood there, frozen. Because now, he understood something terrifying. The names weren't predictions. They were records. And somehow, they were being written. Before they happened. Seima didn't wait. Didn't sit. Didn't think twice. He walked straight to the holding cells. The hallway felt longer than usual. Lights flickering faintly overhead. Footsteps echoing too loudly. Like the building itself was listening. The officer on duty stood up as Seima approached. Sir. Seima didn't stop. The man we brought in, where is he? Cell 3, the officer replied. Seima nodded once. Then moved forward. The cell was exactly where it should be. But the man inside wasn't sitting, wasn't pacing. He was standing perfectly still, facing the wall, just staring at it. Seima slowed his steps. Something about the scene felt wrong, too familiar, like deja vu crawling under his skin. You're looking for something, Seima said. The man didn't turn, didn't react. I'm listening, he said quietly. Seima frowned. To what? A pause. Then, the scratching. Seima's stomach tightened. What scratching? The man finally turned his head slightly. Just enough for Seima to see his eyes. Tired, but not afraid. They start as scratches, he said, before the names appear. Seima stepped closer to the bars. There's no sound. The man smiled faintly. Not for you. Seima's jaw tightened. I want answers. The man turned fully now. Facing him. You already have them. Seima shook his head. No. I have pieces. A pause. And one of them just killed my partner. The man's expression didn't change. I didn't kill him. Seima slammed his hand against the bars. Then explain it. Silence hung between them. Heavy. Then the man stepped closer. Slowly. And for the first time. There was something different in his eyes. Not calm. Not detached. Something darker. I tried to stop it once. Seima's breathing slowed slightly. How? The man leaned against the bars. I erased a name. Seima froze. You what? The man nodded. I scratched it out. Destroyed the wall. Broke the plaster until there was nothing left. Seima stared at him. And? The man smiled. But it wasn't a good smile. They still died. Seima's chest tightened. No. The man nodded again. The name came back. A pause. Deeper. Seima felt something cold settle in his spine. And the person. The man's eyes darkened. Worse. Seima didn't speak. Couldn't. They didn't just die, the man continued quietly. They suffered. Seima's grip tightened on the bars. You're lying. I wish I was. Silence again. The kind that makes truth harder to ignore. Seima stepped back slightly, thinking, if the wall can't be stopped. He looked up. Then why show the names at all? The man's expression shifted. Just slightly. Because it wants witnesses. Seima frowned. What? It doesn't just record, the man said. It makes sure someone sees. Seima's mind raced. Why? The man tilted his head. Maybe that's how it exists. A pause. Maybe it needs to be known. Seima shook his head. That doesn't explain why it's happening here. The man's smile returned. It doesn't only happen here. Seima froze. What? This is just where you noticed it. Seima felt the ground shift beneath his understanding. How many? The man shrugged slightly. More than you'd want to know. Seima ran a hand through his hair, trying to steady himself. This isn't possible. The man watched him carefully. It already happened. Seima looked back up sharply. What? The names, the man said. They're not predictions. A pause. They are memories. Seima's breath caught. I know that. Do you? Seima hesitated, because something in the way he said it didn't feel like agreement. It felt like a warning. The man stepped closer again, lowering his voice. You think you're trying to stop something that's going to happen? Seima said nothing. But you're not, the man continued. You're inside something that already did. Seima's heart slammed hard. That's impossible. The man held his gaze. Then why do the names appear before anyone knows? Seima didn't answer. Because he couldn't. The silence stretched. Then, a faint sound. Seima's head turned instantly. Did you hear that? The officer at the end of the hall looked confused. Hear what? Seima frowned. Because there it was again. Soft. Faint. Like something dragging against the surface. Scratch. Seima's blood ran cold. He turned slowly toward the man in the cell. The man was smiling again. You hear it now. Scratch. Louder this time. Coming from somewhere deeper in the station. Seima stepped back. No. Scratch. The sound echoed faintly through the hallway. Growing. Spreading. Seima turned sharply. Stay here, he ordered the officer. Then he ran. Down the hallway. Toward the sound. Because he already knew where it was coming from. Interview room 3. He reached the door. Breathing hard. The scratching louder now. Clear. Deliberate. Seima pushed the door open. And froze. The room was empty. But the wall. The wall was moving. Not physically. But something was happening to it. Lines forming, deepening, carving themselves into the surface. Seima stared in horror. Because this time, he was watching it happen. Letter by letter. Slow. Painfully slow. A name was being written. Seima stepped closer, his breath shallow. Because deep down, he already knew. The first letter appeared. S. Then, A. Seima's heart stopped. No. M. His hands trembled. E. E. Ah. Seima staggered back, his vision blurring. Because carved into the wall, right in front of him, was his own name. Seima Iqbal. And beneath it, a time. 11:59 p.m. Seima couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't breathe. Because for the first time, the wall wasn't showing someone else. It was showing him. Seima couldn't look away. His name didn't fade, didn't crack, didn't disappear like something imagined. It stayed, carved deep into the wall like it had always belonged there. Seima Iqbal. 11:59 p.m. His throat felt dry, tight, like the air itself had thickened. No. The word barely left his lips. Because denial didn't work anymore. He had seen it happen, watched it being written. There was no explaining it away. Seima stepped back slowly, his legs unsteady. This wasn't a clue. It wasn't a lead. It was a sentence. His phone buzzed. Seima flinched. He didn't want to answer, but he already knew who it would be. Unknown number. He picked it up. How does it feel? Seima closed his eyes for a second. Tell me how to stop it. A pause. Then a quiet exhale. You still think that's possible? Seima's voice hardened. I don't care what it is. I don't care how it works. A beat. I'm not dying tonight. Silence. Then, everyone says that. Seima's grip tightened. What happens to them? The voice didn't answer immediately. And somehow, that was worse. They try to run, it said finally. They leave the city, change locations, surround themselves with people. Seima listened carefully. And they still end up where they are supposed to be. Seima's jaw clenched. That's not an answer. It is. Seima paced the room now, his mind racing faster than he could control. Then I don't run. A pause. I fight. A faint chuckle. They all say that too. Seima stopped moving. His voice dropped. What did you do? Silence. Longer this time. Then, I watched. Seima frowned. What? I stayed, the voice said. I didn't try to escape. Seima's chest tightened. And you're still alive? Yes. Seima's eyes narrowed. Why? Another pause. He wasn't my name. The line went dead. Seima lowered the phone slowly, his thoughts spiraling. He wasn't my name. What did that even mean? Seima turned back toward the wall. His name stared back at him. Unchanging. Unforgiving. He checked the time. 6:12 p.m. Less than 6 hours. The door behind him creaked open. Seima spun instantly, hand already reaching for his weapon. Relax. It was the officer from the hallway. Sir, you okay? Seima didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at him carefully, studying him, like he was seeing something he hadn't noticed before. What's your name? Seima asked suddenly. The officer blinked. Farhan. Seima nodded slowly. Full name? Farhan Ali. Seima exhaled quietly. Not on the wall. Not yet. Sir, what's going on? Farhan asked. Seima hesitated, then stepped aside slightly. Look at the wall. Farhan stepped forward, his expression confused at first. Then, it changed. Was that? Seima nodded. Yes. Farhan turned slowly toward him. That's your name. Seima didn't respond, because saying it out loud made it real. What does it mean? Farhan asked. Seima's voice was quiet. It means I have until 11:59. Farhan's face went pale. That's not. It is, Seima cut in. Silence fell between them. Then Farhan spoke again. We can protect you. Seima looked at him, and for a moment, he almost believed it. But then, he remembered Adil, standing right next to him, still dying. No, Seima said finally. You can't. Farhan didn't argue, because deep down, he understood. Seima walked past him. I need access to every file in this station. Farhan nodded quickly. Right away. Hours passed. Files stacked around Seima again. But this time, he wasn't looking for patterns. He was looking for survivors. Anyone who had their name appear. And didn't die. There were none. Not a single one. Until Seima stopped. A file. Thin. Almost empty. Case title. Subject refused classification. Seima frowned. Opened it. Inside. One page. One line. He saw his name. He was still here the next day. Seima's heart skipped. Attached. A photo. Seima leaned closer. And felt the world tilt. Because the man in the photo was the one in the cell. Seima stood up instantly. Chair scraping loudly behind him. No. He ran. Back toward the holding cells. Faster this time. Because now, he understood something he hadn't before. That man wasn't just a witness. He was an exception. Seima reached the cell. Stopped. Because the door was open. Where is he? Seima demanded. The officer looked panicked. Sir, he was right here. I don't know. He just... Just what? He said you'd come. Seima froze. What? The officer swallowed. He said, you'd understand soon. Seima turned slowly, looking down the empty hallway, feeling something shift inside him. Because now, it wasn't just about surviving. It was about understanding why one man didn't die, when everyone else did. Seima checked the time. 10:48 p.m. Just over an hour left. And somewhere, the only person who might have the answer had just disappeared. Seima didn't waste a second. He was already moving before the officer finished speaking. Check every exit, he backed. Lock the perimeter again. No mistakes this time. But even as the orders left his mouth, Seima knew. This wasn't something you could contain. Not with doors. Not with locks. Because whatever this was, it didn't follow rules. Seima ran down the corridor, his footsteps echoing louder than before. His eyes scanned everything. Corners. Shadows. Reflections in the glass. Nothing. No sign of the man. But the silence felt wrong. Too quiet. Like the building was holding something back. Seima stopped. Listening. And then, a voice. You're running out of time. Seima turned instantly. There he was. Standing at the far end of the hallway. The same calm posture. The same unreadable expression. Like he had never been in a cell at all. Seima walked toward him slowly this time. Controlled. Careful. You planned this, Seima said. The man tilted his head slightly. I knew this part would happen. Seima's jaw tightened. Then you know how it ends. A pause. The man's eyes softened, just a fraction. Yes. Seima stepped closer. Then tell me how to change it. The man studied him for a moment. Long enough to feel uncomfortable. You can't. Seima's voice sharpened. There's always a way. The man shook his head slowly. No. There's a rule. Seima froze slightly. A rule. The man nodded. The only one that matters. Seima felt his pulse spike. Say it. The man stepped closer. Close enough that their voices didn't need to rise. Everyone whose name appears. He paused. Dies exactly where they are meant to. Seima's stomach dropped. That's not a rule. It is. Seima shook his head. No. That's a result. The man smiled faintly. You're still thinking like it's happening in the future. Seima's breathing slowed. Because something about that sentence felt important. Explain, Seima said quietly. The man looked at him carefully. Where were you at 11:59? Seima frowned. That hasn't happened yet. The man didn't blink. It has. Seima's chest tightened. That's impossible. Then answer the question. Seima hesitated. Because suddenly, he wasn't sure. I don't know. The man nodded slowly. That's why you're still here. Seima's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? The man's voice dropped slightly. I survived because I remembered. Seima's breath caught. Remembered what? The man leaned in closer. Where I was supposed to die. Silence. Seima's mind raced. That doesn't make sense. The man's expression darkened. It will. Seima stepped back slightly, trying to piece it together. If the wall remembers deaths. He looked up. Then the time and place are fixed. The man nodded once. Yes. Seima's voice tightened. Then how did you survive? The man held his gaze. I didn't go there. Seima blinked. What? I avoided the place I remembered, the man said. And for the first time. A pause. It couldn't complete what already happened. Seima felt a sudden surge of clarity. So you broke the pattern. The man shook his head. No. Seima frowned. Then what? I delayed it. Seima's stomach dropped again. Delayed? The man nodded. It doesn't stop. A pause. It just waits. Seima ran a hand over his face, trying to steady himself. So even if I avoid it? He looked up. I still die. The man didn't answer. He didn't have to. Seima exhaled slowly, then looked at him again. Where was it? The man's eyes flickered slightly. My place. Seima nodded. Where were you supposed to die? The man hesitated. For the first time. He looked unsure. Then, the same room. Seima froze. What? Interview room 3. Seima's pulse spiked instantly. That's where I am. The man nodded. Yes. Seima stepped back, his mind connecting the pieces faster now. That's why you stayed close. The man said nothing. That's why you came here, Seima continued. To make sure I don't leave. The man's silence confirmed it. Seima's voice hardened. You're not trying to help me. The man looked at him calmly. I am. Seima shook his head. No. You're making sure it happens. The man's expression didn't change. Because if it doesn't. A pause. It finds another way. Seima stared at him. And that's worse. The man's eyes darkened again. You have no idea. Silence fell. Heavy. Seima checked the time. 11:21 p.m. Less than 40 minutes. Seima made a decision. Right then. Clear. Final. I'm leaving. The man didn't react. I'm not dying in that room. Seima turned. Already walking away. You'll come back. Seima stopped. Slowly turned his head. No. The man's voice was calm. You don't understand yet. Seima's jaw tightened. Then explain it. The man looked at him one last time. And said quietly. You don't choose where you die. A pause. It chooses where you end up. Seima didn't respond. He just walked. Faster now. Toward the exit. Because there was one thing he refused to accept. That his death had already happened. Behind him, the man watched silently. And for the first time, he didn't smile. Seima pushed through the main doors. Cool night air hitting his face. Freedom. Or at least, it felt like it. He checked the time again. 11:34 p.m. 25 minutes. Seima stepped forward, away from the station, away from the room, away from the place he was supposed to die. But as he walked, a strange feeling crept in. Subtle at first, then stronger, like something pulling at him. Not physically, but mentally. A thought, a memory, something unfinished. Seima stopped, his breathing uneven. Because suddenly, he remembered something. Something small. Something he had forgotten earlier. A file. Left open. On the desk. Inside interview room 3. Seima's eyes widened slightly. No. He turned back toward the station, his mind arguing with itself. It doesn't matter. Leave. Just leave. But the thought wouldn't stop. It kept pulling. Growing louder. More urgent. Seima took a step back. Then another. Then, he started running. Back toward the building. Because somewhere deep down, something had already decided. He wasn't done there yet. Seima didn't slow down. He ran like someone chasing his own shadow. The station doors slammed open as he pushed through them. The cold air outside vanished instantly, replaced by something heavier. Something waiting. Seima's footsteps echoed louder now. Too loud. Too sharp. Like every step was being counted. 11:41 p.m. 18 minutes. This is stupid, he muttered under his breath. He kept running anyway, because the thought wouldn't leave him. The file. That open file. Sitting there. Incomplete. Unfinished. Seima turned the corner sharply. The hallway stretched ahead. Empty. Too empty. And then, he saw him. The man. Standing exactly where he had been before. Waiting. Seima didn't stop this time. Move. The man didn't. You came back, he said quietly. Seima brushed past him. I forgot something. The man's voice followed him. No. Seima stopped. Just for a second. Then turned his head slightly. What? The man's expression didn't change. You remembered something. Seima's chest tightened. That's the same thing. The man shook his head slowly. No. A pause. It's not. Seima stared at him, but didn't argue, because deep down, he wasn't sure anymore. He continued walking, faster now, toward interview room 3. The closer he got, the stronger the feeling became. That pull, that quiet insistence in the back of his mind. Go back. Finish it. Seima's breathing grew uneven. This isn't real. But it felt real. Too real. He reached the door, hand hovering over the handle. For a moment, he hesitated, because now, he understood something he hadn't before. It wasn't just about the room. It was about why he came back. Seima slowly opened the door. The room was exactly the same. Silent. Still. The wall unchanged. His name still carved deep into it. Seima Iqbal. 11:59 p.m. Seima stepped inside, and instantly, the feeling stopped. Gone. Like it had never been there. Seima froze. Because that scared him more than anything. It only pulls you until you arrive. Seima turned sharply. The man stood in the doorway, watching him. Seima's voice was low. This isn't just about a place. The man nodded. No. Seima looked back at the wall. It's about a moment. The man smiled faintly. Now you're starting to understand. Seima's mind raced. The wall doesn't bring you here. He swallowed. It makes you want to come. The man didn't answer, because he didn't need to. Seima let out a slow breath. It uses memory. A pause. Small things. Unfinished thoughts. He looked at the desk. The file was still there. Exactly where he left it. Seima walked toward it slowly. Every step careful now. Controlled. He picked it up. Looked at it. Then closed it. The room stayed silent. Nothing changed. Seima frowned. That's it. The man leaned slightly against the door frame. You thought it would be that easy. Seima's grip tightened on the file. I finished it. The man shook his head. No. Seima's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? The man pointed towards Seima's chest. You didn't come back for the file. Seima froze. Because suddenly, he knew. It wasn't the file. It was something else. Something deeper. Something he hadn't wanted to face. Seima's breathing slowed. His eyes drifted toward the wall again. His name. The time. And then, it hit him. You came back because you needed to see it again. The man's voice was soft now. But why? Seima didn't answer immediately. Because the truth was forming slowly. Painfully. I needed to believe it. The words left his mouth before he could stop them. The man nodded. Yes. Seima's hands trembled slightly. I didn't believe it before. A pause. I thought I could still escape. The man's expression softened again. And now? Seima looked at the wall. Then at the clock. 11:52 p.m. 7 minutes. I don't know. Silence filled the room. Heavy. Unavoidable. Seima turned back to the man. Tell me the truth. The man didn't move. I have. Seima stepped closer. Everything. The man hesitated. Just for a second. And that was enough. No, Seima said quietly. There's something you're not telling me. The man looked at him. And for the first time, he looked tired. It doesn't matter. Seima shook his head. It does. The man exhaled slowly. Then said, You're not the first one to figure this out. Seima's heart skipped. What? There were others, the man said. People who realized what the wall was doing. A pause. They understood the pull. The memory. Seima's voice dropped. And? The man held his gaze. They still came back. Seima felt something inside him crack slightly. Why? The answer came softly. Because part of them wanted to. Seima looked away. Because that part. He could feel it now. Not fear. Not panic. Something else. Curiosity. Closure. A need to see it through. Seima checked the time again. 11:56 p.m. 3 minutes. The air in the room felt heavier now. Thicker. Like something was about to happen. Seima looked at the man one last time. If I leave now? A pause. Can I still survive? The man didn't answer immediately. Then, yes. Seima's eyes widened slightly. But, the man's voice lowered. It won't end. Seima understood. Delay. Not escape. Seima looked back at the wall. His name staring back at him. Waiting. Then, he made his choice. Seima stepped away from the wall. Toward the door. The man watched him closely. Not stopping him. Not speaking. Seima reached the doorway. Stopped. Just for a second. Then turned his head slightly. Why are you still here? The man's answer came quietly. Because I haven't left yet. Seima frowned. That doesn't make sense. The man smiled faintly. It will. Seima didn't wait anymore. He stepped out of the room. Into the hallway. And behind him. The clock ticked closer. 11:58 p.m. 2 minutes. Seima walked. Faster. Then faster still. Toward the exit. Toward something unknown. But just before he reached the end of the hall, a sound stopped him cold. Scratch. Seima's breath caught. Because this time, it wasn't coming from the wall. It was coming from behind him. From inside the room. 11:59 p.m. Seima turned slowly. Heart pounding. Because something inside him already knew. He hadn't escaped. Not yet. The second hand moved. 11:59 p.m. Seima didn't breathe. Didn't move. Didn't think. Because everything inside him, was waiting. For something to happen. But nothing did. The hallway stayed the same. Empty. Silent. Still. Seima swallowed slowly. That's it. The words felt wrong. Like they didn't belong. Because deep down, he knew. This wasn't over. Tick. The second hand moved again. And that's when it started. Not loud. Not sudden. But subtle. So subtle most people wouldn't notice. But Seima did. Because he had been listening for it. The sound of breathing. Not his own. Seima's eyes shifted slightly. The hallway was still empty. But the air didn't feel empty anymore. You stayed. Seima froze. The voice came from behind him. Inside the room. Slowly. Very slowly. Seima turned. The door to interview room 3 was open. And inside, someone was sitting in the chair. Seima's heart slammed. Because it wasn't the man. It was him. Seima stared. At his own face. At his own body. Sitting calmly in the chair. Looking directly at him. No. Seima stepped back. This isn't real. The other Seima smiled faintly. You said that before too. Seima's breath hitched. What is this? The version of him inside the room leaned back slightly. Relaxed. Like he had all the time in the world. This is the part you never see. Seima shook his head. No, this doesn't make sense. It does. The other Seima interrupted softly. You're just not there yet. Seima's pulse pounded in his ears. Which one of us is real? The other Seima tilted his head slightly. That depends. On what? A pause. Then, which one remembers? Seima's chest tightened. Remembers what? The other Seima's expression darkened slightly. How you die? Silence. Heavy. Unforgiving. Seima felt the world tilt again. No. The other Seima leaned forward slightly. Close your eyes. Seima didn't move. Do it. Something in his tone made Seima obey. He closed his eyes. And instantly, it hit him. A memory. Sharp. Clear. Like it had always been there. He was in the room. Standing near the wall. Looking at his name. The door behind him creaked. He turned. And saw himself. Sitting in the chair. Watching him. Seima's breath caught. Because now, he understood. The memory wasn't new. It was already lived. Seima's eyes snapped open. He stumbled back slightly. No. The other Sama stood up slowly, stepping closer. You see it now. Sama's voice shook. This already happened. The other Sama nodded. Yes. Sama's mind raced violently. Then which one of us dies? The answer came calmly. The one who doesn't remember. Sama's heart stopped. Because suddenly, he knew. The man. The one who survived. He remembered, Sama whispered. The other Sama smiled faintly. And the version of him that didn't. A pause. Didn't make it out. Sama's breathing became shallow. This isn't about escaping death. No, the other Sama said. It's about becoming the version that already did. Sama's mind struggled to keep up. So I replace him. The other Sama stepped closer. Or he replaces you. Sama's back hit the wall. The carved letters cold against his skin. And if neither of us remembers. The other Sama's expression went completely still. Then the wall writes a new ending. Sama felt something break inside him. Because now, there were no choices. No escape. Only outcomes. Why me? Sama whispered. The other Sama looked at him for a long moment. Then said, because you noticed. Silence. Sama laughed softly. But there was no humor in it. So this is it. The other Sama didn't answer. Because the clock behind them ticked again. 12 a.m. And everything changed. The lights flickered. The air shifted. The room moved. Not physically, but something inside it snapped into place. Sama gasped. Because suddenly, he wasn't standing anymore. He was sitting. In the chair. His hands resting calmly in his lap. And across from him, someone stood. Confused. Panicked. Trying to understand what was happening. Sama's breath slowed. Because now, he recognized that look. It was the same one he had just had. The realization settled quietly. Like something locking into place. He remembered. Everything. The wall. The names. The time. And this moment. Sama leaned back slightly in the chair. Watching the other version of himself struggle. No, the other Sama whispered. Sama said nothing. Because there was nothing to say. This wasn't cruelty. It wasn't choice. It was completion. The loop closing. The other Sama stumbled backward. Desperate now. Trying to escape. Trying to run. But Sama already knew. He wouldn't make it. Because he hadn't remembered in time. And the wall never made mistakes. Sama exhaled slowly. Calm now. Still. The scratching started again. But this time, he didn't flinch. Because now, he understood what it meant. A new name. A new story. And somewhere, someone else, was about to notice. The room was silent. Too silent. Sama leaned back in the chair. Hands resting calmly in his lap. He had survived. Not because he escaped. Not because he ran fast enough. Not because he fought. He survived because he remembered. The wall didn't just record names. It recorded moments. Actions. Decisions. Thoughts. And it gave them back to whoever noticed first. Sama stared at the carved letters. Sama Iqbal. 12 a.m. His name. No longer a mark of impending death. It was proof. He existed in the memory. A faint scratching echoed from the walls again. He didn't flinch. Because he understood now. The scratching wasn't a threat. It was attention. Recognition. Someone else would come. Someone who hadn't noticed yet. Someone who would feel the pull. The pull of memory. The pull of inevitability. Sama rose slowly. He looked around the room once more. Everything was exactly the same. Except him. He wasn't the frightened version who had stumbled through the hallway. He wasn't the man who had almost failed to remember. He was calm. Collected. And that made all the difference. Outside the room, footsteps approached. Quick, hesitant, nervous. Sama didn't hide. He didn't need to. The door creaked. A figure appeared. Young. Unsure. Scared. Sama's eyes softened. Because he saw what he had once been. You're him, the figure whispered. Yes, Sama said quietly. And you? The figure shook. I don't know what this is. What's happening? Sama stepped closer. Listen carefully, he said. The wall, it records everything. Names, moments, choices. And it watches. The young figure's eyes widened. I don't understand. Seima knelt slightly. You'll understand. Soon. The pull you feel, that's it. It's memory calling. It wants you to see yourself. To remember. To survive. The figure swallowed hard. What happens if I don't? Seima looked at the wall. The wall doesn't care about failing. It just waits. It doesn't end, it only delays. But someone will notice. Someone will always remember. The figure nodded slowly, still trembling. I think I feel it. Good, Seima thought silently, because recognition was the key. Memory. Awareness. Survival. He rose fully. Follow me, Seima said. The young figure hesitated. Where? Anywhere but here, Seima replied. Together, they walked through the hallway. Each step echoed, but it no longer felt oppressive. The building still held the weight of everything that had happened. The names etched, the stories trapped, the moments that refused to fade. But Seima wasn't afraid. He was part of it now. As they reached the exit, Seima glanced back. The room waited silently, waiting for the next, waiting for someone else to notice. He pushed the door open. The night air rushed in, cool and sharp. Seima stepped out. The young figure beside him followed, uncertain but alive. Will they survive? The figure asked softly. Seima looked at him. Only if they notice, he said. And when they do? A faint smile touched his lips. They will understand. Just like I did. The city stretched out before them. Lights flickering. People moving. And in the shadows, unobserved, the wall waited. Silent, patient. Watching. Recording. Remembering. But Seima knew the secret now. He had become the one who remembered. The one who survived. The one who could guide the next. The pull of memory still lingered, faint but insistent. A soft reminder that nothing truly ended here. But it was no longer terrifying. Because Seima understood. Memory was the key. Awareness was the shield. And the wall could never take that away. He took a deep breath. The city smelled of rain and asphalt. He turned to the young figure. Come on, he said. Time to live. And somewhere behind them, the scratching continued. Soft. Persistent. Patient. But Seima no longer feared it. He walked forward, guided not by the wall, but by memory. Awareness. Choice. And for the first time, the wall had a witness who would not forget. Story 2. They buried Armin Qureshi on a Thursday. Closed casket. Heavy rain. And a mother who refused to believe the body inside belonged to her son. 3 days later, Armin walked into a police station. Alive. Detective Hadi Malik didn't believe in ghosts. He didn't believe in miracles either. But when the desk officer called him down with a voice that didn't sound human anymore, he knew something was wrong. Sir, you need to see this. Hadi walked out slowly, calm, controlled. But the moment he saw the man sitting in the chair, something inside him shifted. Because the face was identical to the one in the case file. Same eyes, same scars, same man. Armin Qureshi, declared dead, buried 72 hours ago. Hadi stopped a few feet away, studied him, carefully. You know who you are? Hadi asked. The man looked up slowly, confused, tired. I think so. Hadi didn't blink. Say it. A pause. Armin Qureshi. The room went quiet. Too quiet. Hadi pulled out the file. Opened it. Photo inside. Same face. Autopsy report attached. Cause of death, blunt force trauma. Time of death, 3 nights ago. Hadi closed the file slowly. That's not possible, one officer whispered. Hadi ignored him. Where have you been? Armin frowned. I don't remember. Hadi stepped closer. You don't remember dying. The word hung in the air. Armin flinched. What? Hadi dropped the file on the table. You were found in a drainage canal. Skull fractured. No pulse. No movement. He leaned in. They buried you. Armin stared at him. Blank. Then, he laughed. A short, broken sound. That's not funny. Hadi didn't smile. I'm not joking. Silence. Armin's breathing changed. Faster. Uneven. No, that's wrong. I was. He stopped. Because the memory wasn't there. like something had been cut out. Hardy watched him closely. Start from the last thing you remember. Armin swallowed. I was driving. Where? Home. Time. Late. Maybe midnight. Hardy nodded slowly. That's when we believe you died. Armin shook his head. No, I didn't die. Hardy's voice dropped. Then explain this. He turned the file around. Armin looked at it, at the autopsy photos. His face. Broken. Still. Lifeless. Armin's hands started shaking. That's not me. But it was. Every detail matched. Even the scar above his eyebrow. Armin pushed the file away. No. Hardy leaned back slightly. Then who is it? Armin didn't answer. Because there was no answer. A knock on the door interrupted them. Sir, an officer said, stepping in. Hardy looked up. What? The officer hesitated. Then said, there's someone here to identify the body. Hardy frowned. What body? The officer swallowed. Garmin Qureshi. The room went completely still. Hardy turned slowly back to the man sitting in front of him, who was very much alive. Bring them in, Hardy said quietly. Seconds later, a woman entered, eyes red, hands trembling. Armin froze. Emmy. She looked up and screamed, because her son, the one she buried, was sitting right in front of her, alive. She staggered backward. No, no, this isn't real. Armin stood up. It's me. Don't come near me, she shouted. Her voice broke. They showed me your body. Tears streamed down her face. I buried you. Hardy stepped between them. Please. She grabbed his arm. Then who did I bury? That question hung in the air like something alive. Because no one in that room had an answer. Hardy turned slowly. Back to Armin, studying him again. More carefully this time. Because something wasn't right. Not just the situation, but the man himself. Sit down, Hardy said quietly. Armin obeyed. Hardy leaned forward. One more question. Armin looked at him. What? Hardy's eyes narrowed slightly. When you walked in here. A pause. Why did you ask for me by name? Silence. Armin blinked. I did. Hardy didn't look away. Yes. Armin's face went pale. Because he didn't remember that either. And suddenly, the question wasn't just who died. It was, who came back? It started before sunrise. Because Hardy didn't trust daylight for this kind of truth. The cemetery gates creaked open slowly. Fog hung low across the ground, thick enough to swallow shapes. The kind of morning where everything felt unfinished. Armin stood near the police vehicle. Silent. Watching. His mother sat inside another car, refusing to look in his direction. Hardy noticed that. But he said nothing. Because right now, there was only one question that mattered. Who was in that grave? Start digging, Hardy ordered. Two workers stepped forward, shovels hitting wet soil with dull, heavy thuds. Each strike felt louder than it should, echoing in the quiet morning. Armin flinched at the sound. He didn't know why. But something about it felt familiar. Too familiar. Hardy noticed again. You all right? Armin nodded quickly. Yeah. But his voice didn't match. The digging continued. Minutes stretched, then longer. Until, thud, the shovel hit something solid. The coffin. Everyone went still. No one spoke. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Hardy stepped forward slowly. Open it. The workers hesitated. Just for a second. Then they pried it open. Wood cracked. Metal groaned. And finally, the lid lifted. The smell hit first. Sharp. Rotten. Unmistakable. Armin staggered back. His hand flew to his mouth. His eyes watered instantly. But it wasn't just the smell. It was something else. Something deeper. Hardy looked inside. And froze. Because the body was not decomposed. Not the way it should have been. 3 days in damp ground should have done something. Anything. But the body looked fresh. Too fresh. Impossible, one officer whispered. Hardy didn't respond. He stepped closer, studied the face. And there it was again. Same eyes. Same scar. Same man. Armin Qureshi. Dead. Hardy slowly turned his head. toward the man standing behind him. Alive. Come here, Hadi said quietly. Armin didn't move. I said come here. Reluctantly, Armin stepped forward, closer, closer, until he reached the edge of the grave, and looked down. The world tilted, because he was staring at himself. No. His voice cracked. That's not. But it was. Every detail identical, even the faint bruise near the jaw. Armin stumbled backward. I didn't die. His voice rose now. I didn't die. Hadi grabbed his arm. Then explain that. Armin shook violently. I can't. Silence fell again. Heavy. Unforgiving. Hadi turned back to the body. Something was wrong. Not just the existence of two identical men, but something specific. Something small. He leaned in closer. Studied the face again. Then the hands. Then, he froze. Wait. Everyone looked at him. What? An officer asked. Hadi pointed slowly. At the cop's wrist. There's something missing. Armin frowned. What? Hadi didn't answer immediately. Instead, he grabbed Armin's arm. Pulled it forward. On Armin's wrist. A thin black thread bracelet. Simple. Worn. Hadi turned back to the body. No bracelet. Armin's breathing stopped. I never take that off. Hadi's voice dropped. Then why isn't it on the body? No one answered. Because no one could. But that small difference changed everything. This isn't your body, Hadi said slowly. Armin looked at him. Hope flickered. What? Hadi pointed again. It looks like you. It matches your records. But it's missing something you always wear. A pause. So either. He swallowed. Someone removed it. Oh. Armin whispered. Hadi's eyes darkened. Or it was never you to begin with. Silence. The idea settled slowly. Like something dangerous taking shape. A body identical to Armin. But not him. Then who? And more importantly, why? Armin stepped closer again. Careful now. Terrified. But needing to see. He stared at the face. Then leaned in slightly. And that's when he saw it. Something no one else had noticed. A tiny mark. Just behind the ear. A faint line. Too precise to be accidental. Wait, Armin whispered. Hadi looked at him. What? Armin pointed. There. Hadi leaned in. Saw it too. A surgical incision. Clean. Deliberate. This wasn't from the injury, Hadi said slowly. No, Armin replied. His voice barely audible now. I've seen this before. Hadi's eyes snapped to him. Where? Armin hesitated. Because the memory wasn't clear. But it was there. I don't know. A pause. But I've seen it. Hadi stepped back slowly, mind racing. Because now, this wasn't just a mistaken identity. This was something planned. Precise. Controlled. Close it, Hadi ordered. The workers lowered the coffin lid. Sealed it again. Like burying the truth a second time. But it was too late. Because now, they knew. Someone had created this. A body. An identity. A death. And Armin was at the center of it. As they walked back toward the vehicles, Hadi spoke quietly. From now on, you don't go anywhere alone. Armin nodded. Still shaken. Still trying to understand. But one question refused to leave him. If that's not me. He looked back at the grave. Then who was meant to die? Hadi didn't answer. Because the truth was far worse. Maybe the plan wasn't to kill Armin. Maybe the plan was to replace him. Hadi didn't go home. He didn't sleep. And he definitely didn't believe in coincidences anymore. By the time the sun rose fully, he was already inside the records division. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Stacks of files surrounded him like silent witnesses. Armin sat across the table. Still pale. Still shaken. But now, something else had replaced the fear. Determination. Because whatever had happened to him wasn't random. And somewhere, there was an answer. Hadi flipped open a folder. Missing persons. Last 6 months. Armin leaned forward slightly. Why missing people? Hadi didn't look up. Because if someone can create a body that looks exactly like you. A pause. They need a template. Armin swallowed. You think they are copying people? Hardy's voice stayed calm. I think they are replacing them. Silence. The weight of that idea settled slowly. Hardy pulled out the first file. A young man, early 20s, missing for 3 weeks. He placed the photo on the table. Armin looked at it, frowned. I've never seen him before. Hardy nodded. Good. He pulled out another. A woman this time. Mid-30s. Gone without a trace. Then another. And another. The table slowly filled with faces. Dozens of them. Different ages. Different lives. Same ending. They vanished. Armin's eyes moved across the photos. Uneasy. This doesn't mean anything yet. Hardy didn't respond. Instead, he reached into his pocket, pulled out a small evidence bag. Inside it, a printed sheet of paper, recovered that morning, from inside the coffin. I didn't show you this at the grave, Hardy said quietly. Armin frowned. What is it? Hardy placed it on the table, then slid it toward him. Armin looked down, and froze, because the paper was a list, a long one, names, one after another, typed neatly, organized. Armin's hands began to shake, because he recognized them, not personally, but from the files. Every face on the table was on that list. This. His voice broke. This was in the coffin. Hardy nodded, hidden beneath the lining. Armin looked up slowly. Why? Hardy's jaw tightened. Because whoever put that body there. A pause. Wanted it to be found. The room felt colder suddenly. Armin looked back at the list, his eyes scanning rapidly now. Line after line. Name after name. Then, he stopped. His breath caught. Because near the bottom, there it was. Armin Qureshi. Armin pushed back from the table. No. Hardy didn't move. Because he had already seen it. They had you marked, Hardy said quietly. Armin shook his head violently. No, this doesn't make sense. If they already replaced me, then why? He stopped. Because another thought hit him. What if? His voice dropped. What if they didn't finish? Hardy's eyes narrowed. Explain. Armin pointed at his name. What if this is a process? A pause. Step 1, take the person. Step 2, create the body. Step 3. He hesitated. Replace them. Silence. Hardy leaned back slowly, because that theory made too much sense. And something went wrong with you, Hardy said. Armin nodded slowly. I wasn't supposed to come back. The words hung in the air. Heavy. Terrifying. A knock on the door broke the moment. Another officer stepped in. Sir, we found something. Hardy stood immediately. What? The officer hesitated, then said, a location. Hardy's expression sharpened. From where? The officer held up a second evidence bag. Inside, a small metallic tag, stamped with a code. It was embedded under the skin of the body, the officer said. Armin's stomach dropped. Under the skin. Hardy took the bag, examined it closely. The code was precise, structured, like something from a system. We traced it, the officer continued. Hardy looked up. To where? The officer swallowed. Oh, an abandoned facility. Silence. Hardy's grip tightened slightly. Where? 20 kilometers outside the city, the officer said. Old medical research site. Shut down years ago. Armin felt a chill run down his spine. Because suddenly, that faint memory stirred again. That mark behind the ear. That feeling of familiarity. I've been there, Armin whispered. Hardy turned sharply. What? Armin's breathing quickened. I don't remember when, but I know that place. Hardy didn't hesitate. Get the car. Minutes later, they were on the road. The city fading behind them. The landscape growing emptier. Quieter. Armin stared out the window. Heart pounding. Because the closer they got, the stronger that feeling became. Recognition. Not clear. Not complete. But undeniable. What if I don't want to remember? Armin said suddenly. Hardy didn't look at him. You don't have a choice. The road narrowed. Trees thickened around them, blocking out the light. And then, they saw it. The facility. Large. Concrete. Abandoned, but not empty, because even from a distance, something about it felt active, watching, waiting. Armin's voice dropped to a whisper. This is where it happened. Hardy parked the car slowly. Engine off. Silence. Then he looked at Armin. Ready. Armin stared at the building. Fear creeping back in. But beneath it, something stronger. Yes. Because whatever answers existed, they were inside. And the list was only the beginning. The gate wasn't locked. That was the first wrong thing. Hardy pushed it open slowly. Rust scraped against metal, echoing far louder than it should have. Armin stood just behind him, breathing shallow, eyes fixed on the building ahead, because now he knew. He had been here before. I don't like this, one of the officers muttered. Hardy didn't respond. He stepped inside. The air changed instantly. Cold, still, heavy with something chemical. The kind of smell that clung to hospitals, and places where things weren't meant to be seen. The lobby was empty. Desks abandoned. Chairs overturned. But not dusty. That's what made it worse. This place wasn't forgotten. It was maintained. Stay close, Hardy said quietly. They moved deeper inside. Hallways stretched endlessly. Doors lined both sides. Some open. Some sealed. Flickering lights hummed above. Armin slowed near one door. His hand lifted unconsciously. Then stopped. Hardy noticed. You remember something? Armin nodded slightly. This way. Hardy gestured forward. Lead. Armin stepped ahead, his movements hesitant at first, then more certain, like following a path buried deep inside his mind. They turned left, then right, then down a longer corridor, until they reached a door at the end. Unlike the others, this one was sealed, metal, reinforced, and slightly open. A faint white light spilled through the gap. Armin's breath hitched. This is it. Hardy stepped forward, pushed the door open, and froze, because inside was a room that should not exist. Rows, dozens of them, glass chambers, standing upright, each one filled with clear liquid, and inside each chamber, a human body, perfect, still, preserved. The officers behind them stopped breathing. One of them whispered, "Why Allah?" Hardy stepped forward slowly, eyes scanning the rows. Every body looked real, not decayed, not damaged, just asleep. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the faces, because Hardy recognized them, one by one, from the files, from the list, the missing people. They are all here, an officer said softly. But Armin wasn't listening, because his eyes were locked onto something else, a chamber near the center. He stepped toward it, slowly, like something pulling him forward. No, he whispered. Hardy followed. And then, he saw it too. Inside the chamber was Armin, another one, identical, floating in the liquid, eyes closed, completely still. Armin staggered backward. No, that's not possible. Hardy didn't speak, because this time, there was no explanation left. 3 versions, one buried, one standing, one preserved. This is cloning, one officer whispered. Hardy shook his head slightly. No. A pause. Not exactly. Because something about it didn't feel like science. It felt controlled, measured, like someone was building something. Armin stepped closer again, eyes locked on the version inside the chamber. Why me? His voice was barely audible. And then, the body inside the chamber moved. Just slightly. A twitch of the fingers. Everyone froze. That's not possible, an officer said. But it was happening. The fingers twitched again. Then the eyes opened. Armin screamed, stumbling backward violently, because inside the chamber, his own face was staring back at him. Alive. The liquid inside the chamber began to ripple. A low hum filled the room. Machines, hidden behind the walls, were turning on. What did you do? An officer shouted. I didn't do anything. Armin yelled back. But something had changed. The moment they entered, something activated. Hardy looked around sharply. Panels lighting up, screens flickering to life. And then, a voice. Calm, mechanical, echoing through the room. Subject awareness confirmed. Everyone froze. Phase 3 initiated. Hardy's expression hardened instantly. Find the source of that voice. But there was no visible speaker. Only the room. The chambers. The bodies. The voice spoke again. Replacement sequence in progress. Armin's heart stopped. What does that mean? He whispered. Hardy turned toward him. And for the first time, he didn't have control of the situation. Because now, they weren't investigating anymore. They were inside it. And something was about to begin. The chamber holding Armin's duplicate began to drain. Liquid lowering slowly. The body inside, starting to move. Breathing. Waking. Armin stepped back again. Panic flooding his voice. No, stop it. Stop it. But nothing stopped. Because whatever this place was, it had been waiting. Waiting for him. The chamber finished draining with a hollow hiss. No one moved. No one breathed. Water pooled at the base of the glass cylinder, dripping slowly, rhythmically. And inside, the other Armin stood, eyes open, chest rising, alive. Don't, the real Armin whispered. But it was too late. The chamber unlocked. A sharp click echoed through the room. Then the glass door slid open. The figure stepped out. Barefoot. Unsteady. But conscious. Water trailed down his skin. His eyes adjusted slowly to the light. And then, he looked directly at Armin. Not confused. Not afraid. But aware. A faint smile formed on his lips. You made it back. The room froze. Armin shook his head. What? The duplicate tilted his head slightly, like studying something familiar. You weren't supposed to. Hardy stepped forward immediately. Don't move. He raised his weapon. The duplicate didn't react. Didn't flinch. Didn't even look at the gun. Instead, he kept his eyes locked on Armin. You don't remember, do you? Armin's voice trembled. Remember what? The duplicate exhaled slowly, almost disappointed. That's a problem. Hardy's voice sharpened. Who are you? Finally, the duplicate looked at him and smiled. I'm the one who finished the process. Silence. Hardy's grip tightened. What process? The duplicate didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked past the chamber, stepped onto the cold floor, and reached for something behind one of the panels. Before anyone could react, he pulled out a small device, the same kind of metallic tag they found in the body. Hardy raised his gun higher. Drop it. But the duplicate simply held it up, examining it. Do you even know what this is? No one answered. The duplicate looked back at Armin. This is what you're missing. Armin's chest tightened. Missing? The duplicate stepped closer. Slowly, carefully. Hardy moved to block him. Stay where you are. The duplicate stopped. But his gaze never left Armin. You think you're the original. A pause. But you're not. The words hit like a blow. Armin staggered slightly. No. The duplicate's expression didn't change. You're the one who failed. Silence. Hardy stepped forward again. That's enough. The duplicate ignored him. You woke up too early, he said to Armin, before integration was complete. Armin's head spun. Integration. The duplicate lifted the device. This stores memory mapping. A pause. Behavior. Identity. Personality. Hardy frowned. You're saying you're programmed. The duplicate smirked. No. A slight tilt of the head. I'm perfected. Armin's breathing became uneven. Then what am I? The duplicate answered without hesitation. A fragment. The word echoed. Heavy. Unforgiving. You were never meant to exist outside the process. Armin shook his head violently. That's not true. But the doubt was already there. Because of the missing memories. Because of the gaps. Because of everything that didn't make sense. Hardy stepped in again. Who's behind this? The duplicate finally looked at him fully, and for the first time, his expression changed. Serious now. You really don't know. Hardy's voice hardened. Tell me. The duplicate glanced around the room. At the chambers. At the bodies. Then back at Hardy. This isn't an experiment. A pause. It's a system. Armin whispered. For what? The duplicate's eyes returned to him. For replacing people who matter. Silence. Politicians. Officials. Anyone with influence. Hardy's stomach tightened. You're lying. The duplicate shook his head slightly. No. A pause. You just found the storage. Hardy's mind raced. Storage. Meaning. This wasn't the main site. How many facilities are there? Hardy asked. The duplicate smiled faintly. Enough. Before Hardy could press further, the lights flickered violently. The voice returned. Louder now. Unauthorized presence detected. Security protocol initiated. Hardy turned sharply. We need to move. Now. But the doors slid shut, sealing the room. Find another exit, an officer shouted. But there wasn't one. The duplicate looked almost amused. I told you. A pause. You weren't supposed to come here. Armin stepped back from him, fear returning full force. What happens now? The duplicate looked at him. Now. A small smile. They fixed the mistake. The floor beneath them vibrated slightly. Something deep within the facility was activating, and for the first time, Hardy realized something terrifying. They weren't here to uncover the truth. They were here to be erased. The vibration under their feet deepened. Low, constant, like a machine waking up after a long sleep. Then came the sound, a distant metallic clang, followed by another, closer this time. Hardy's instincts kicked in immediately. Everyone, weapons up. The officers snapped into position, guns raised, eyes scanning every corner of the room. The duplicate Armin didn't move. He just stood there, watching, almost curious. Armin backed away from him. Do something, he shouted at Hardy. I am, Hardy replied sharply. But the truth was, he didn't know what they were dealing with. The voice returned. Cold, emotionless. Containment breach authorized. The lights flickered again, then turned red. The entire room was bathed in a dull crimson glow. And that's when they heard it clearly. Footsteps. Not normal footsteps. Too heavy. Too precise. Coming from the hallway outside. One of the officers whispered, What is that? No one answered, because no one wanted to say it out loud. Hardy turned to the duplicate. What did they send? The duplicate smiled faintly. Not what? A pause. Who? The door at the far end of the room shuddered, metal bending slightly under pressure. Then, bang. The first hit. The entire frame shook. Armin flinched violently. What is that? No answer. Bang. Second hit. Harder. Stronger. The lock cracked. Hardy raised his gun. On me. All officers aimed at the door. The third hit. Exploded the door inward. Metal tore apart. Sparks flew. And something stepped through. At first glance, it looked human. Same shape. Same height. But wrong. Everything about it was wrong. Its movements were too smooth. Too controlled. Its eyes. Empty. Not lifeless. But disconnected. Fire! Hardy shouted. Gunshots erupted instantly. Bullets slammed into the figure. Chest. Shoulder. Head. But it didn't fall. Didn't even slow down. It kept walking forward. Step by step. Armin's heart pounded violently. What is that? The duplicate answered calmly. A correction unit. The thing moved faster. Inhumanly fast. 1 second it was at the door. The next, it was inside the room. It grabbed the nearest officer. Before anyone could react. Crack! The officer dropped instantly. Neck broken. Screams filled the room. Fall back! Hardy shouted. They moved backward. But there was nowhere to go. The correction unit turned its head slowly. Scanning. Analyzing. Then its eyes locked onto Armin. Target found. It lunged. Hardy fired again. Point-blank range. This time, the bullet hit the head. The figure staggered. Just slightly. But it was enough. Move. Hardy grabbed Armin. Pulled him behind one of the chambers. Glass shattered nearby as the unit struck. Liquid spilled across the floor. One of the preserved bodies collapsed out. Lifeless. Chaos erupted. Officers firing. Shouting. Running. The unit moved through them like they weren't there. Precise. Efficient. Every motion calculated. Another officer fell. Then another. Hardy dragged Armand toward a side panel. There has to be a way out. Armand's mind raced, panic flooding every thought. Then, the duplicate appeared in front of them, blocking their path. You can't escape this, he said calmly. Hardy raised his gun instantly. I'll shoot you. The duplicate didn't react. Then you lose your only chance. Hardy hesitated. Just for a second. That second was enough. The correction unit slammed into the chamber behind them. Glass exploded, fragments flying everywhere. Armand screamed. The duplicate grabbed him suddenly. Hard. Listen to me. Armand struggled. Let me go. You don't have time, the duplicate snapped. For the first time. Emotion in his voice. Urgency. They are not here to kill you. Armand froze. What? They are here to complete you. The words hit deeper than anything else. Hardy looked between them. What does that mean? The duplicate shoved the device into Armand's hand. Take it. Armand stared at it. The same metallic tag. Put it in. Armand's breath stopped. Where? The duplicate pointed behind his ear. The same place as the incision. That's where they'll put it anyway. A pause. Only difference is, you won't be you anymore. The correction unit turned again, locking onto them. It started moving forward. Slow. Relentless. Armand's hands shook violently. He looked at Hardy. What do I do? Hardy didn't answer immediately, because there was no good choice. Only survival. The unit lunged again. And in that moment, Armand made a decision. He raised the device, hands trembling, and pressed it behind his ear. The world went black. Darkness didn't feel empty. It felt crowded. Armand wasn't unconscious. He was somewhere else. Floating. Falling. Existing between moments that didn't belong together. And then, the memories came. Not slowly. Not gently. They slammed into him. A flood. Violent. Unstoppable. He saw places he had never been. Rooms. Corridors. Laboratories filled with machines he didn't understand. He saw people. Faces. Strangers. And yet, he knew them. Names formed instantly in his mind. Histories. Conversations. Secrets. He gasped. But there was no air here. Then came something worse. He saw himself. Not as he was now. But before. Strapped to a chair. Lights overhead. Voices speaking around him. You're stable. Subject compatibility confirmed. Begin mapping. No, Armand whispered into the darkness. But the memory didn't stop. It continued. Machines attached to his head. Something drilling. Not into bone, but into thought. Extracting. Copying. Rewriting. He screamed. And this time, he felt it. Pain. Real. Sharp. Then, silence. Armand's eyes snapped open. He gasped violently. Air rushed into his lungs. Cold. Harsh. Real. The room came back slowly. Red lights. Broken glass. Water pooling across the floor. Bodies. Hardy was kneeling beside him. Armand. His voice sounded distant, like it was coming from far away. You're back, Hardy said. Back. But Armand didn't feel back. He felt different, because the memories didn't fade. They stayed, layered over his own, blending, confusing what was real, and what wasn't. He sat up slowly, hands shaking. I remember. His voice cracked. I remember everything. Hardy frowned. What do you mean? Armand looked at him, eyes wide, terrified. They took me. A pause. Not just me, all of them. Hardy leaned closer. Who? Armand's breathing quickened. The names on the list. They were selected. Studied. Copied. His voice grew weaker. They built versions of us. A pause. Better ones. Hardy's expression hardened. For what purpose? Armand shook his head slowly. No. They are not replacing random people. He swallowed. They are replacing the future. Silence. Hardy didn't understand. But he knew it was bad. Very bad. Before he could ask more, a sound echoed behind them. Footsteps. Heavy. Slow. The correction unit. Still alive. Still coming. Hardy grabbed his weapon. We need to move. But Armin didn't move. He was staring ahead, at something Hardy couldn't see. No, Armin whispered. Hardy followed his gaze. The duplicate, standing across the room, watching them. But now, something had changed. His expression, no longer calm, no longer controlled. Now, he looked uncertain. You shouldn't have done that, the duplicate said. Armin stood slowly. His body felt heavier now, stronger, like something inside him had unlocked. You lied to me, Armin said. The duplicate shook his head. No. A pause. I protected you. Armin's jaw tightened. From what? The duplicate stepped closer. From knowing what you really are. The correction unit lunged again. But this time, Armin moved first. Faster than before. He grabbed a metal shard from the broken chamber, turned, and struck. The shard drove into the unit's neck. Deep. Precise. The unit froze. For a split second. Then collapsed. Dead. Silence filled the room. Everyone stared at Armin. Because that movement wasn't normal. Hardy's voice dropped. How did you do that? Armin looked at his hands, still shaking. I knew where to hit. A pause. I've seen it before. The duplicate smiled faintly. Now you understand. Armin looked up at him. No. His voice steadied. Now I know what you are. The duplicate tilted his head. And what's that? Armin took a step forward. Eyes locked. A weapon. Silence. And so are you, the duplicate replied calmly. The words didn't shake Armin this time. Because deep down, he knew it was true. But that didn't mean he had to obey. The facility trembled again. Stronger now. Emergency alarms blared. Self-destruct sequence initiated. Hardy's eyes widened. We have to go. Now. But Armin didn't move yet. He was still staring at the duplicate. Who created this? Armin demanded. The duplicate hesitated. Just for a moment. Then he said one word. Director. Armin frowned. Who is that? The duplicate's expression darkened slightly. You already met him. Silence. Armin's heart stopped. Because suddenly, a memory surfaced. Clear. Sharp. A man standing in the observation room. Watching him. Smiling. And then, a name. Hardy. Armin's eyes snapped toward him. No. Hardy froze. What? Armin stepped back slowly. Fear returning. Stronger than before. You were there. Hardy's face hardened. What are you talking about? Armin's voice shook. I remember you. The room went silent. Because now, the truth wasn't just dangerous. It was personal. The alarm wouldn't stop. A piercing, relentless scream that filled every inch of the facility. Self-destruct sequence initiated. Red light spun wildly across the shattered chamber room. Smoke began leaking from the ceiling vents. Time was running out. But Armin didn't move. He couldn't. Because all he could see was Hardy. You were there, Armin repeated, his voice unsteady but sharp. Hardy stood frozen. For the first time since this began. He didn't look in control. I don't know what you think you saw, Hardy said carefully. But Armin cut him off. No. A step forward. I remember you. The words hit harder this time. Not confusion. Not fear. Certainty. The duplicate watched silently from across the room. Almost interested. Armin's breathing deepened. You were behind the glass. His voice grew stronger with every word. In the observation room. Watching. You didn't stop them. Hardy's jaw tightened. That's not. Don't. Armin shouted. The sound echoed violently through the chamber. Don't lie to me again. Silence fell. Even the alarms felt distant for a moment. Because something had shifted. The balance of control was gone. Hardy exhaled slowly, then lowered his weapon. Not surrendering, but accepting something inevitable. You weren't supposed to remember that, he said quietly. The truth landed like a bullet. Armin staggered slightly. So it's real. Hardy didn't answer immediately, because there was no point denying it now. Yes. One word, and everything changed. Armin felt something break inside him. Not physically. Something deeper. You were part of it. Hardy shook his head. Not the way you think. Armin laughed. A hollow, broken sound. There is no other way to think. You stood there while they... His voice cracked. While they turned me into this. Hardy stepped forward. I was trying to stop it. Armin's eyes burned. By watching. No, Hardy snapped. By staying inside long enough to understand it. The room went still again. The duplicate's smile returned slightly. Now this is interesting, he murmured. Hardy ignored him. His focus stayed on Armin. I went undercover, Hardy said. They recruited me 3 years ago. A private division. Off the books. They said it was advanced medical research. Armin didn't react. But he listened. Because now, he needed to know. I didn't know the truth at first, Hardy continued. Not until I saw the first subject. A pause. They weren't healing people. They were rewriting them. Armin's fists clenched. And you stayed? Hardy nodded. Yes. Because if I walked away, they would have erased everything. Armin's voice dropped. So instead, you let them continue. Hardy stepped closer. No. I gathered evidence. I tracked facilities. I built a case. A pause. And I waited. Armin stared at him. For what? Hardy's expression darkened. For you. Silence. Armin's breath caught. What? Hardy pointed toward the chambers. You were different. Your compatibility rate was higher than anyone else's. They weren't just copying you. They were using you as a base model. Armin felt the ground shift beneath him. No. Hardy nodded. Yes. That's why something went wrong. You woke up early. You broke the process. The duplicate chuckled softly. Or, he evolved past it. Hardy shot him a glare. Stay out of this. But the duplicate only stepped closer. You still don't get it, do you? Hardy's grip tightened again. Get what? The duplicate looked between them. This wasn't about control. A pause. It was about survival. Armin frowned. What? The duplicate's voice lowered. There's something coming. The words hung in the air. Hardy's expression shifted slightly. Because for the first time, that sounded unfamiliar. What are you talking about? Hardy asked. The duplicate didn't answer directly. Instead, he looked at Armin. You weren't chosen randomly. Armin's heart pounded again. You were built to lead what comes next. Before anyone could respond, the building shook violently. A massive explosion echoed from somewhere deep below. The self-destruct had begun. Hardy snapped back into action. Enough. We move now or we die here. He grabbed Armin's arm. But Armin pulled back slightly, still looking at the duplicate. Are you coming? Armin asked. The duplicate smiled faintly. I already have a role. Another explosion rocked the room. Chunks of the ceiling began to fall. Hardy didn't wait anymore. Move. This time, Armin followed. They ran. Through the broken hallway. Past shattered doors. Past bodies that never got to wake up. The alarm screamed louder. The structure groaned. Everything was collapsing. But behind them, the duplicate didn't move. He simply stood there, watching them leave, and smiling. Because whatever this was, it wasn't over. It had just begun. The corridor was collapsing behind them. Concrete cracked. Steel bent like paper. Hardy ran ahead, leading the way. He didn't slow down. Didn't look back. Because if he did, he knew what he'd see. The entire facility folding in on itself. Faster, he shouted. Armin pushed harder. His body didn't feel the same anymore. Stronger. Sharper. Every movement precise. Like he instinctively knew how to survive this. Another explosion tore through the structure. The floor beneath them cracked open. They jumped across just as it gave way, falling into darkness below. An officer behind them wasn't fast enough. His scream echoed, then vanished. Armin didn't stop. He couldn't. Not anymore. A door appeared ahead. Marked, exit access. Hardy slammed into it. It didn't budge. Move, Armin said. Before Hardy could react, Armin grabbed the handle. Pulled. The metal groaned. Then tore open. Hadi froze for a split second, because that strength wasn't normal, but there was no time to question it. Go! Hadi ordered. They burst through into a narrow tunnel. Emergency lights flickered overhead. A faint wind rushed toward them. Fresh air. They were close. The tunnel sloped upward, each step harder than the last. Behind them, the roar of destruction followed, like something chasing them. Finally, light. Real light. Sunlight breaking through at the end of the tunnel. They ran toward it, and then, they were out. The world outside hit them all at once. Bright, loud, alive. Armin collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. For a moment, he just stared at the sky. It felt unreal, like everything else. Behind them, the ground shook violently. Then, the facility collapsed completely, dust and debris rising into the air, as if it had never existed. Silence followed, heavy, uncertain. Hadi stood beside him, watching the destruction. It's gone, he said quietly. Armin didn't respond, because something felt wrong. Not here. Out there. He stood slowly, looking around. The facility had been hidden in the middle of nowhere, a stretch of land far from the city. But in the distance, he could see it. Buildings, traffic, people, life continuing like nothing had happened. And that's when it hit him. They're already out there. Hadi turned to him. What? Armin's eyes stayed fixed on the city. The replacements. A pause. They're not waiting. They've already started. Hadi's expression hardened. You don't know that. But Armin did. Because of the memories. Because of what he saw inside that place. They weren't preparing, Armin said. They were deploying. Silence. Hadi exhaled slowly. Then we stopped them. Armin finally looked at him. How? Hadi didn't answer immediately. Because the truth was, he didn't know. But before he could respond, a sound echoed nearby. An engine. Both of them turned. A black SUV approached slowly. Too slowly. Hadi's instincts flared. Get behind me. Armin didn't move. He just watched. The vehicle stopped a few meters away. The engine cut. Silence. Then, the driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Well-dressed. Calm. Familiar. Armin's breath caught. Because he knew that face. Not from his life, but from the memories. The observation room. The man behind the glass. Watching everything. The director. Hadi raised his weapon instantly. Don't move. The man didn't react. Didn't even acknowledge the gun. Instead, he looked directly at Armin. And smiled. I was wondering which version would make it out. The words sent a chill through the air. Hadi stepped forward. Get on the ground. Still, no reaction. The director's eyes never left Armin. You surprised us. A pause. But I suppose that's why you're special. Armin's voice came out low. You did this. The director nodded slightly. Yes. No denial. No hesitation. Why? Armin demanded. The director tilted his head slightly. Because the world is broken. Hadi scoffed. So you replace people. The director glanced at him briefly, then back to Armin. We improve it. Armin's fists clenched. You're killing people. No, the director said calmly. We're evolving them. Silence. Those who can't adapt. A slight pause. Are left behind. Hadi's voice hardened. You're insane. The director smiled faintly. History always says that about people like me. Armin stepped forward, anger rising. You turned me into this. The director's expression softened slightly. No. A pause. You became this. Before Armin could respond, the director reached into his coat. Hadi tightened his grip. Don't. But the director moved calmly, slowly, and pulled out another device, identical to the one Armin used. You're incomplete, the director said. Armin's heart pounded. This finishes it. Hadi stepped forward. Don't listen to him. But Armin didn't move, because something inside him was pulling him toward it, toward completion. The director extended his hand. Come with me. A pause. And I'll show you what you were meant to become. The world felt still. Everything hung on this moment. And Armin, Had to choose. The world held its breath. Dust from the collapsing facility still drifted through the air behind them. The sun hung low. Too calm. Too normal. For a moment that would decide everything, Armin stood between two futures. On one side, Hardy, gun raised, eyes filled with urgency. On the other, the director, hand extended, calm, certain. And in the middle, Armin, incomplete, unstable, something new. The device in the director's hand glinted in the sunlight. "You feel it, don't you?" the director said softly. Armin didn't answer, because he did feel it. A pull, deep inside his mind, like something missing, like a sentence that hadn't been finished. Hardy stepped forward slightly. "Armin, don't." His voice was steady, but there was fear beneath it. "He's manipulating you." The director smiled faintly. "Am I?" He tilted his head. "Or am I offering him the truth you've been hiding?" Hardy's jaw tightened. "I told him everything he needs to know." The director chuckled. "No." A pause. "You told him what keeps you in control." Silence. Armin's mind spun. Fragments of memory clashing inside him. Voices overlapping. Images breaking apart and reforming. "You're both lying," Armin said quietly. Neither man responded. Because in their own way, they both were. Armin looked down at his hands. Still shaking, but stronger now. More precise. "I remember things," he whispered. "Things that haven't happened yet. That caught both of them off guard." The director's eyes narrowed slightly. "Interesting." Hardy frowned. "What do you mean?" Armin looked up. "I've seen the outcome." A pause. "If I go with him." He glanced at the director. "The world changes." Hardy's breath slowed. "And if you don't?" Armin's eyes shifted to him. "Then it still does." Silence. Because that was the truth no one wanted to admit. This wasn't about stopping something. It had already begun. The director took a step closer. "You see it now." Armin didn't move. "You understand what you are." Hardy stepped forward as well. "No, he doesn't." Armin raised his hand slightly, stopping both of them. "I do." And for the first time, his voice was calm, clear. "I'm not the original." A beat. "I'm not the copy either." He looked at the director. "I'm the result." The director smiled wider. "Yes. That's why you matter." Hardy shook his head. "This is exactly what he wants you to believe." Armin turned to him. "No." A pause. "This is what you were afraid I'd realize." Hardy froze. Armin stepped forward, closer to the director, but not fully toward him. "I remember your plan," Armin said, looking at Hardy. "You were going to destroy everything." Hardy's silence confirmed it. All the facilities. All the data. Everyone connected to it. Armin's voice lowered. "Even me." Hardy finally spoke. "I didn't have a choice." "You did," Armin replied. "And you chose control." The director watched the exchange with quiet satisfaction. "Humans always do," he said. Armin ignored him. Because now, he understood something deeper. This wasn't about sides. It was about evolution. And he was the first step. Armin reached out. Hardy tensed. "Armin, don't." But Armin wasn't reaching for the director. He took the device from his hand. Then stepped back. Both men froze. "What are you doing?" the director asked. Armin looked at the device. Then, at the city in the distance. "I'm finishing it." Before either of them could react, he pressed it behind his ear. Pain exploded through his skull. Brighter than before. Deeper. This time, there was no darkness. Only clarity. Every memory aligned. Every thought sharpened. Every possibility visible. Armin stood still as the process completed. Then, he opened his eyes. And they were different. Not empty. Not cold. But aware. Fully aware. Hardy took a step back unconsciously. "Armin." The director smiled slowly. "Now, we begin." Armin looked at him, and shook his head. "No." The single word cut through everything. The director's smile faded slightly. "You misunderstand," he said. Armin stepped forward, faster than before. In an instant, he was standing right in front of him. "You created a system," Armin said calmly. You think you control it. A pause. You don't. Before the director could react, Armin reached out and touched his head. The director froze. His expression shifted from confidence to confusion, then fear. What are you? Armin didn't let him finish, because now he understood how it worked. Memory, identity, control. He could see it all, and he could change it. The director collapsed to his knees, gasping, clutching his head. You can't. But Armin already had. He stepped back. The director looked up, eyes wide, lost, because whatever he had been was gone. Hardy stared in disbelief. What did you do? Armin looked at him. I ended him. A pause. Without killing him. Silence. The wind moved softly around them. The world still turning. Hardy lowered his weapon slowly. And now? Armin looked toward the city again. Cars moving. People living. Unaware. They're out there, Armin said. The replacements. Hardy nodded. We find them. Armin shook his head slightly. No. A pause. We guide them. Hardy frowned. What? Armin turned to him one last time. They're not the enemy. A beat. They're the next version. Hardy didn't like that answer, but he understood it, even if he didn't want to. And what are you? Hardy asked quietly. Armin thought for a moment, then answered. I'm the one who decides what comes next. Silence. Then, he started walking, toward the city, toward the future, and behind him. Hardy followed, not because he trusted him, but because now, there was no other choice. Far in the distance, a man passed by on the street, paused, and looked up. His eyes flickered, just for a second, then returned to normal, and he kept walking, as if nothing had changed. But everything had.